On today's docket, we're going to talk about the nature of the holographic reality. Maybe not. It's too advanced. Instead, let's talk about star beings, people, stellans in human form. Imagine that at the theater. Star beings in human form. So I'm going to continue on from previous or recent discussions. So if you get lost, then you need to go back to the check the previous videos. If you think you're smart and you don't need to watch any of the previous videos and you think you can handle it, well, good luck. But don't call me names. Now, I'm going to give a warning. Okay? Because we are entering beyond knowledge. So I want to make sure any scientists beware. Okay? We are going beyond knowledge. If you don't know what that means, you are a scientist and you might want to go back to previous videos. The main topic today, so I'm going to move it pretty fast because the people who follow my work are pretty smart. Again, you follow along as best you can and take from it what you will. We're going to talk about star beings in human form because there's quite a few star beings in human form. Now, I've done the warning. We're going to go beyond knowledge. But what happens when you ascend? Now I don't like that word, but that's the word we use. You awaken. The proper term is when your DNA activates. Because that's essentially, if you want the scientific view, is when your DNA activates. What's DNA activation is gene expression. So what's the world doing to us is called gene suppression. Right? Gene suppression. From all of the TV programs, right? Which is limit mind to processed food to endless vaccine nations, etc. Okay? Which all of these things lead to gene suppression. Now, for those of you who are awake, who are ascending, you are activating your DNA. This is what rituals do. Rituals and discipline and exercises and meditation, etc. We're already getting off topic, but when you activate your DNA through gene expression, which comes through diet, meditation, discipline, proper knowledge. When you have proper knowledge, your DNA starts to activate. So you already have the DNA, right? You have DNA, it's just inactive or dormant. Okay? And this is why I have to say, I am not a scientist. Okay? But as not a scientist, it is my opinion that we have inactive DNA, inactive DNA sequences, inactive genes, dormant genes, right? Dormant codons, etc. So the process of knowledge and listening to people and studying and improving your diet and exercising and cleansing your body is to activate the DNA. Activating the DNA is also called ascension. It leads you to your true self, which is the ultimate goal, and it takes years and years, right? It's a lot of work. We don't know what that is. And people will stop along the way, right? They'll say, well, I am this. And they'll stop. Another person says, I am that. And they'll stop. But actually, you can keep going. Lots more. Now, when you keep going and going and you have unlimited thinking, which, some people have to be careful with because they can misunderstand stuff and do something terrible. Don't do something terrible. Unlimited thinking, we get into this what I will list as maybe just a way we can understand it, an avatar. Okay, avatar, which is this star being in human form. Now that gets us into a lot of interesting discussions. The obvious discussion, it gets us into something called reincarnation. Well, not everybody believes in it, right? But, reincarnation does not require belief to be valid. So, and this is one of the issues that you will have when you ascend. You will come across knowledge, understanding, realizations that will contradict with your beliefs, right? So to me, this is an advanced science. And since we are not educated, right, we don't have this course in university as a science. Okay, we have it as a philosophy, we have it as a spiritual discussion. People once believed, but to me, okay, so to me, I'm going to stress this kind of stuff. To me, reincarnation is an advanced science, same as incarnation. All right, so this is a body and a soul incarnates, embodies, right? Embodies a body. incarnates. So reincarnation, you can see why my discussions get really long, because we have to go through we have to go through the history and backstory of all this stuff, because I want you to understand it. So this is incarnation. It's the soul. It's the undefinable, limitless soul going into a body, inhabiting the body. So reincarnation is, right? Reincarnation is the soul, as depicted here by like a little sun, an orb. The soul can enter another body upon death, right? At death. Of course, that's a limited thinking, but let's use it. Death, soul goes to another body, right? Soul to body. At death, to the soul, what happens? Goes to another body. At death, 3, the soul goes into another body, right? And at death 4, it goes again. So in between, what we don't know is, we don't know what happens, right? In between, soul goes somewhere. Let's just call it somewhere. Nice place, been there. That's another discussion. So my science, so this is my science. I'm not a traditional, conventional scientist. I'm a shaman. And shamans believe in reincarnation. And many old cultures believe in reincarnation, that the body is an avatar. So this is important when we discuss star beings in human form. So this is let's say it's a human form, and the soul, right? The soul is make as much of a mess as we can. This is my depiction of a soul. The soul can be an ET soul. Okay? That's what we're saying. ET soul is also saying an advanced being. Okay? Can be old. What do I mean by old soul? Old is many reincarnations. It's acquired. Every reincarnation, you acquire something called knowledge, wisdom, maybe even karma. Who knows, right? There's a lot of stuff we can acquire. So we're talking about the ET soul, the star being soul, is an advanced soul. Old soul, advanced old means many reincarnations. So they've been going through this process over many lifetimes. But let's say this is on Earth, and this is in 4000 BC. In the first body, and let's say the next body is 2500 BC. So there's a gap, right? 1500 years. So the soul doesn't necessarily have to go in sequential, right? This guy dies in May 1, and this guy is born in May 2, and this guy dies in the 19th of July, and this guy goes in the 20th of July. I think this is a common error, which is kind of this sequential rebirth or reincarnation. And I wouldn't limit us to that. So a human being, maybe a human soul, might go through that process. But today we're focusing on, so today there's a lot of knowledge, and we really have to, what I hope to do in these kinds of videos is to focus on stuff, because there's just way too much to learn. And there's way too much information. So the ET soul, not necessarily a sequential reincarnation. In other words, they could be born in 4000 BC, live a life as an emperor or something, and then they die, and then they go somewhere else. Well, we're not going to talk about that today, right? They go somewhere else. In between, go somewhere. Then they decide, okay, I'm going to incarnate again, which is reincarnation, in the 2500 BC. And then maybe you'll live a life is pretty gruesome. I'm going to wait. I'm going to come back at the 17th century. Okay, so there's thousands of years, but it can be the same soul inhabiting different bodies. And then this one could be the 21st century. So that, to me, is also reincarnation. That there may be a period, a gap here. So when you're doing your past life stuff, right? If you look at past lives, there may be gaps in previous lives, because you might be skipping these periods, and you will be going elsewhere, right? Somewhere else. We don't know where, but again, I want to have an unlimited discussion. So this is the ET, the star being the ET soul. We'll have maybe that we'll call it many births of the ET soul. Maybe it should be the. Ramp up the music. Da, 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 da. Now, okay, so we sort of get that, right? We got the sort of an understanding. So let's use the term, or switching the term to ET soul. I think it's easier to understand. Don't limit yourself. So there's an ET soul. Now there's a human body. Right? So with the ET soul, we'll go into the body and live out life. Can be any kind of life, right? Can be any life. Any. Rich, poor, medical, or monk. We don't know. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because this life is part of that incarnation agreement. Okay, that's your agreement. Sign. You sign. We have agreements. Every time you buy something or sign up, there's an agreement, right? When you buy a car, a phone, a house, when you get a job, etc., there is an agreement. Now, which is more important? Okay? Which is more important? And that's a trick question. Which is more important? Buying a house, which is pretty important, right? You got a pretty important, buy a house, or you have an incarnation into a human body and live a life of 100 years, right? I think this is more important. Now, again, not everybody believes that there are incarnation agreements. But in my view, does not require your belief. Okay? The incarnation does not require for you to believe it. But we can all agree, when you buy a car, it's important. There's an agreement. When you buy a phone, there's an agreement. When you get internet, there's an agreement. When you get a job, there's an agreement. When you buy a house, there's an agreement. Everything has an agreement. When you get a contract, there's an agreement. When you sell a book, there's an agreement. So it just makes sense. It's common sense, even if you don't understand it, that there's an agreement. And in the agreement, okay, it details, okay, what you will do. It details ages you might wake up. It details missions. It details contingencies. It could detail marriages, kids, okay, etc. And that's detailed here. So, for example, it might say at age 16, ETs will visit to see if you are awake. Okay? So at 16 you get visited by ETs to see if you are awake. Now, for most people, they're confused because we live in a very distorted world. They're confused. But this all comes down to your agreement. It's written in the agreement that you signed that the ETs will visit to see if you're awake. Obviously, if you're confused, you're not awake, and the ETs will have to do something, right? They might have to do a DNA update. They might have to take you on a ship. Right? They have to do something to help you according to your agreement. Again, this does not require your belief. And you might not have this knowledge because when you incarnate, you lose memory. And I think most people know this. You lose memory. So a lot of your life is remembering. Right? It's just remembering what you wrote down on the agreement. It's remembering who you are, remembering what kind of soul you have, remembering your past life. So that the more you remember that when something occurs that you agreed to, then you're not confused, right? If you said you're going to get married, at 25, and for whatever reason you're afraid, and you got alcohol problem, and you got got a broken heart, and you're 35 and you're not married, that creates a problem in your life. If the ETs visit at 16 and you're confused, that creates a problem, and there's contingencies, right? Contingent. That's what I wrote down here. Where did I write it down? There are contingencies. So he or she or it or they said they want to be awakened at a certain time, so we got to take them aboard the ship. We got to do their DNA. We got to wake them up, because that's what they need according to their contract. Right? If they're afraid to get married, we got to help them overcome the broken heart and the programming and the attachments, etc., and the alcoholism, etc., because that's part of the agreement that helps you achieve what you're supposed to achieve. So it's all of this is very complex or complicated for every person. But the ET soul, it's even more complicated, because you are remembering that you are pretty advanced in knowledge, right? And these types of people, they have a very strong intuition. They can sense, they understand really complicated stuff. And they know, they always have a direction. Sometimes they have a direction. Right? You see other people falling by the wayside. These guys, they're just going right through, power through. Even you have issues, they just keep powering through, while other people fall by the wayside, right? And that's because of this advanced knowledge, because you're an ET soul. Okay? Okay, so how are we doing? We're thoroughly confused yet? So, ET in human form. I think the concept is pretty straightforward. And the question is, there's several questions. The first question is, what type? Everybody wants to know what type, or the common one is what planet. I tend to not go there right away, because I want to establish what we just gone through, right? What we just gone through, the basics. I like to stick with foundation. If anybody knows my work, I stick to foundational concepts. And I'm not like some people who jump into the advanced stuff and get into all the weird stuff. And that's where you can get off track. So I stick to the basics. But we've got the basic foundation. I think we can accept that this is plausible or happening, or you might be this. But this is a very broad concept. So what? I'm a ET, I'm old soul. What does it mean? So we get into specifics, what type and what planet. Now, remember, part of your waking up is remembering. See, you know all this. You don't remember. Okay? And you have all this, what we'll call counter programming. Right? TV. There's a pandemic. There's a gender you're supposed to have. There's a crisis. Right? There's a finance. There's a religion. There's a climate that's going to kill everybody. So this is your, you know, most people are lost right here. Forget about it. So they don't have time to remember anything. Why? I don't have time to think about my previous life as an ET. I mean, the world's going to end, the polar bears are dying, and there's a crisis, and there's a mass shooting, and my gender, I don't know what gender I am. I don't know what gender I am. Why should I think about my planet? But this is what you're going to deal with. If you overcome this, you can go here. And that's why not a lot of people follow my work. It's because most people are here, right? And the fake alien, they got the fake aliens. Yeah. There's lots of stuff to keep you preoccupied. And some of this you need, and some of this you don't. You don't need it all. You don't need to be depressed every day. But you want to remember who you are, because it gets you back into why you came here, right? You know, why you here. Because remember, there's an incarnation. And that's by choice, right? That's choice. You chose the incarnation. You chose your body, right? Choice. You chose your body. You chose your life. You chose your parents. You chose your financials. If you're poor, you chose that. There's a reason for that. It's in your contract. Poverty. Don't get me too rich. Not too rich. It's in the contract. And there's a reason for that. Maybe you have issues with money. Maybe money will take you off the spiritual path, right? Maybe it'll affect your path. Maybe it'll affect your mission. I don't know that. That's for you, right? That's getting back to incarnation. Now, let's look at the type of ETs. Because, again, I'm using the term ETs so that we can all understand. They don't call themselves ETs. So there's basic types. I'll use the familiar types, right? There's the mantids. There's the reptoids. There's the, who else we got? The bird. Let's see, the bird, avian. And there's a spider. These are less common. There's the feline. Those are pretty cool. So you got mantids, reptoids. There's the grays. You could even be one of the grays. There's, let's say, the tall grays. Right? We can also add maybe the fairies. If they're listening, they're going to get upset. I didn't add the fairies. So that's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 types. There's more. There's fish type. Or dolphin. I can't think of the right term right now, but there's aquatic. There's aquatic types. And that's good. Okay, that's quite a few. Keep us busy. The most people don't believe in any of this stuff, right? So people don't believe in any of this stuff. So that's why it's a very difficult discussion for the conventional thinker. So part of your process, because remember we talked about, I don't like to bring it up here, but we talked about these guys, right? The Pleiadians. Well, there's a lot more going on here, right? So, and then there's the Stellan types. Okay? So you could be, and there's the cosmic types. You see how many types of people there are? Types of ET, types of advanced beings. Remember, old souls. You could be a stellan from another planet, from another galaxy. You could be a cosmic, which is ascended time and space, and can be quite large and powerful. You could be the standard reptoid, which is cold, heartless. If you're involved with money, usually that's probably a reptoid. Mantids tend to work in the medical fields. Mantids, they're very good with genetics. So if you're kind of in the biotech, if you're maybe a physician or some type of specialist, you could be one of those. And, all these different types. Fairies could be in healing, magic. So part of the process is what type. Now, once you discover your type, then you can figure out a planet or a system. Or maybe it doesn't matter. Like to me it doesn't matter. But to you, maybe it matters. And so when you do this, when you sort of expand your knowledge, and it becomes a much bigger reality, right? This is much bigger. And maybe the mantids and the reptoids don't like each other, but there's not a soap opera between these guys. In many cases, they're cooperating because these guys are more advanced, right? They realize that it's a zero-sum game. They need each other, even though they may not like each other. They know they need. When you're advanced, right, you realize there's a reason for these and there's a reason for these. And these guys, if they get injured, they need a mantid. And the mantids, if they need to make some money, they need a reptoid. If they need to build a hospital, if the mantids need to build a hospital, they need the money, the funding, and they got to go to the reptoids. If the reptoids are dying of a disease, they got to go to the mantids. They need each other. It's called that interrelationship. I call it a zero-sum game. We need each other. So when you become advanced, it's not a soap opera, everybody trying to kill each other. Because, the reptoids need the birds or the avians because they have certain types of knowledge and magic and technology. And the felines have a certain culture and knowledge. And there's discrepancies and the disagreements, but, if the felines get hurt, they need the mantids. If the fairies need to draw to conjure some money, they got to cast a spell on the reptoids. Like it's all interrelated, and nobody's better than the other person. So if you find you're one of these, or you're a stellan, or you're a cosmic, you're not better. You're not better. There's no better. It's interrelationship. Okay, and that's when you become, advanced. Advanced is, so this is, what do you call it? Unadvanced? Unadvanced is shoot first. Advanced is, let's wait and see, right? Let's have lunch. Maybe we can put together a project, right? We need each other. That's advanced. Need each other. So, and this it bothers me because when you get into this Pleiadian soap opera stuff and the Arcturians, they're all fighting each other. But that means they're not advanced. That automatically says they are not advanced. They are primitive. So, we're talking about star beings in human form. They're coming to Earth for a specific reason. Now, one last piece. One last piece. Because you are an ET soul, and Earth is, by definition, primitive, or in development, under construction, spiritually. When this type of advanced soul comes here, it's going to have some issues, right? Because your aura is different, right? Your aura is different. Your perception is different. Your sensitivity, right? You can pick up emotion. You can pick up anger. You pick up fear. Let's say you pick up fear, and so you become afraid, because everybody's afraid here. If you pick up love, you might think they love you, but really you're hypersensitive to love. Your aura may interact with others, right? It could get polluted. That makes you sick. You might get sick because you're hanging around with polluted people. You might perceive things, and you might see things too deeply in a very primitive world. You might misperceive things, right? So there are issues. And a lot of these people have health issues. Because, you have this advanced core, but you're living in a polluted, clogged planet with all kinds of dark energy. So a lot of these people have health issues, right? Some of these people have like ADHD. They might have lupus. You might have Lyme. You might have bipolarism, because you're interacting with energy here and energy there, and you're picking up the dark, you're picking up the light, you're tapping into your soul, and then you're tapping into humanity. We don't know, right? Some people might have that, multiple sclerosis. Like, there's all kinds of these diseases. It's because it can be, I will have to say, again, I'm not a scientist, can be related. But to me, this can also suggest, and it's not true in every case, that this could be evidence that you are different versus you are sick. You see what I mean here? The reality says you're sick, you got health problems, you're on pills, right? You got pills, you're on meds, there's no cure. I'm suggesting that some of this, since you don't remember, obviously you haven't remembered anything, it could be evidence that you are different, which is your heritage, right? Heritage. So heritage can be a very powerful, not a cure, but maybe a powerful aid. Can't even be a cure. Yeah. Because, okay, we go back to what did I say before? I said DNA. Remember DNA? Well, if you remember who you are, your goal is to activate. DNA. Now, if you don't activate DNA, if no, maybe you got health problems because you don't know who you are and your DNA is not activating. If your DNA activates, it gives you some defense. Maybe not 100%, some defense, some protection. But this, this is a very, now we're getting into a complex issue. Because as an ET soul, you're relying really on intuition, faith, and versus science. If you get that wrong, that could affect things. So I do believe that if you have knowing your soul and your past lives helps us to deal with our perception of the world, navigating the world, not overreacting and not absorbing too much dark energy. Because we live in a planet that is still under construction spiritually. So this is why we do these things, because it goes back to heritage. Heritage can be a powerful aid and provide some defense and protection because it's connected to DNA. Now, it's not easy. It's not easy to understand that, and a lot of it's going to come through intuition and faith. But it might help you, lead you to DNA activation. And that might help you more than resisting and going down through this kind of painful route, right? So this, none of this is certain. What's certain is you came here for a reason, that it's written in a contract, and that you forgot. Okay, final piece. Now, this is a final piece. ET Soul, there was an agreement between the star beings, like star nations, and governments. I said governments of the earth. Okay? And there's many agreements, and they were written down, okay? The agreements were detailed. So this is not like a handshake. They're written. They're written. And one of them is, we want to know who the ET souls are. Now, if you've been following along, that's pretty interesting, right? That's pretty interesting. Because why? The government, or let's say the secret government, and let's say the cabal, knew or know who the ET souls are. And this, I would say, anytime before 2005. So anybody born, not necessarily born, but knowledge before 2005 was given. And after 2005, there was a change. There was a change of agreement. Change is the cancel of agreement. So that the star beings were no longer obligated to tell the cabal or the government who the ET souls are after 2005. So this is before. Now, why is all of this important, right? Because what the cabal and the space program people, which is my lab as well, what the Cabal and Space Program people did is targeted ET souls in human form. So you got your implants, brainwash, you got your torture, you got your fake alien, etc. Okay? There's a lot of stuff. So these guys targeted ET souls given to them by the Star Beings. The Star Beings gave them a list as per the agreement. It's a very complicated agreement. And the Cabal said, we want to know who the ET souls are just for our reference. Well, they used it to attack them. So you have, you can continue down here, you have a bunch of these people who are sick, who have been institutionalized on meds, dead, on the wrong path, etc., confused. They're working for some of them are working for Cabal. Because they were attacked, so they were intercepted. And some people made it through or making it through. Now it changed in 2005 because the old agreement, a major agreement, was tossed out, was rescinded, and so that the Star Beings no longer provided that kind of information, so that some souls now are protected, or that we don't know. They don't know who is what, right? Because they would have said here before, John Smith is a mantid, right? So the Cabal would say, okay, how to hurt mantids. And then they would do damage on John Smith. Put him out of commission. If John Smith resisted, he'd probably ended up dead. Okay? So that changed in 2005. So a lot of this stuff I can share with you because this has changed. Because this used to be secret. This knowledge used to be secret. And you couldn't talk about it. It used to be classified. There was an agreement in place. So we had to be careful how it's shared, what knowledge was given. So now everything has changed since 2005. And this is when I woke up, and I've been talking about all manner of stuff. So in addition to being an ET soul, which is a great thing, it's a very standard protocol across the universe that it happens all the time. You choose your body, you choose your life, and you have a mission, and it can be whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is. And that's been interrupted here, and that's why we have a lot of the problems of the past. Because for many years, for decades, people have been attacked, and these people are now, they have problems. The thing is, I always go back to this fact, like, if your mission, right, is from 25 to 45 age, if that's your mission, 25 to 45, to do X and Y, if attacked, and from 25 to 45, you're an alcoholic, and you got 3 marriages, right? And you got fraud, and you're depressed, then you didn't do it. You didn't do what you're supposed to do from 25 to 45. But now let's say you wake up at 45 and you get yourself out of the mess at 50. Okay? This is a lot more common than you realize, at 50. So you had 20 years of mission. Now you're 50, so you go to 70 to do your mission. But you don't have the same energy. You don't have the same money. And now you're dealing with all kind of baggage and kids and marriage and depression and pills. And not only that, you're handicapped, right? Because you're not in your prime. 50 to 70 is not the prime. It's good. It can be good. But even more important, you missed the time, right? So let's say 25 to 45 was let's go back. Let's say it's 1975 to 1995. That was your window. 20 years. Because a lot of stuff was happening. 1975, 90. So by the time you wake up, using my model here, you wake up in 1995, you take 5 years, so you're back on the game in 2000. And you're going to go 20 years, 2020. Yeah, but all the stuff has already happened. The oil crisis and the wars and the sharing of knowledge and writing of books is all done here. So this is a different time. You missed your window, right? That's your window. You missed it. You missed your window, 75 to 95. So you didn't partake. And that's terrible, because now you failed your contract, you failed your mission. Now you might be stuck here. And this is what's happened. Even though you can, I'm retiring now, I got money, I'm going to start talking about, ETs at 50 to 70, because I feel safe now. But you're now you're in a different window. That's not your window. You missed your window. And that's why the cabal attack. It's not just to hurt you and torture you and brainwash you, but it's to miss your window. Miss your window. Right? And it's as simple as if you said you're going to start a company June 7, 1985, and because you're off track for whatever reason, you don't start that company. That company has a ripple effect. You don't hire certain people. You don't develop a new technology, right? There's a ripple effect. Ripple. You don't hire the people you're supposed to hire. You don't innovate. Don't have the products. You don't have anything in 85. And you would have went 85 to 95. That's 10 years. So let's say you wake up in 95, and you start in 2000, and you set up a company. I'm going to set up a company in 2005. Yeah, but you are now 20 years off. So now everything's pushed 20 years, right? You're late. So if they attack people and they're late and they're late and they're late and they're off, there's a ripple effect where the cabal and the master controllers can gain control. Okay? So the more you understand this, the more you understand this and this, the more likely you will do things on time. You won't miss your window. And some windows are more important than others. So the world is not just controlled by power, right? Okay? The world, not just by power. It's by crippling others, right? By programming others, by confusing, by distracting. You understand? There's enough people, but if they intercede and get them busy on the wrong things, that's how they get more power. Because otherwise they can't do it. If everybody did what they're supposed to do, the world would not be distorted. So there's a lot going on. And it's hard enough to help people understand this possibility, right? It's pretty hard to discuss reincarnation and incarnation, let alone this part, right? But this is what we need to understand.